Take any major chord, lift it up 2 frets or a whole step, lift it up another whole step, and you get these 3 chords.
These 3 chords.
Which is affectionately called the Mario Cadence, because for many of us, the first time that we encountered this congratulatory chord progression was upon reaching the castle in Super Mario Bros. Now, believe it or not, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to these 3 chords. I know it might seem simple, but there's actually quite a bit of music theory that we get to dive into here. So what I want to do in this video is give you some really simple ways you can start applying this chord progression idea right out of the box without understanding too much theory. But then later on, I want to dive a little deeper into these 3 chords and figure out what is possible and what kind of things we can do as composers to really milk those chords for all they're worth. So to get started, I do want to show you some really simple ways to apply this, and I think a good way to do that is to show you some examples of how other people have applied this. The Super Mario Bros. Theme is in the key of C major, and once we get to the castle, they play us another C major, followed by the A flat, the B flat, and the C, the Mario Cadence, the 3 major chords a whole step apart. Now we also hear 3 major chords a whole step apart in Lady Madonna by the Beatles, which is in the key of A. And it goes from our 1 chord to our 4 chord, back to A, to our 4, and then F, G, and A. Once again, those 3 chords. The Beatles again, in With a Little Help from My Friends, they start right off with a C, D, and an E major to kick you off into a song that's already in the key of E major. Staying in the key of E, Shania Twain has a song, All I Want to Do Is Have Some Fun, which is just an E major. I got a feeling I'm not the only one. All I want to do is have some fun. Same thing. We've got a C major, a whole step apart to the D, a whole step back to E. Now what's really important in all of these examples is the last chord of my cadence. Right here in the example I just played is E. The last chord is the tonic, right? So the cadence leads us to our tonic chord. It leads us to our home base. So at a very simple level, if you want to start using this thing, find out what key are you in, and then just figure out, okay, go back a whole step and go back another whole step, and that's where you can start your Mario Cadence. For example, let's say I wanted to apply the Mario Cadence, but I was in the key of G, so I'm playing a G major chord. Well, I need to land on G, so what I need to do is go back a whole step, that takes me to the note F, and then if I go back another whole step, that would take me to the note E flat. Well, E flat kind of sucks as a guitar player, but I can play it anyways. It would be right here, and then I would move it up a whole step to play F, and then I can move it up another whole step to play a G. So now, if I'm in the key of G, I know how to apply my Mario Cadence just by going back a whole step or 2 whole steps, and then going up another whole step to an F major, and then back to G major. So very, very easy thing to apply. Just work your way back 2 whole steps, and that's where you can plunk in your first major chord, takes you another whole step up to the next major chord, takes you another whole step up to the final chord, your home base, the key that you're actually in. Now, I really like using this kind of trick where you just find out what key you're in and then throw in the Mario Cadence near the end. I think this is really helpful if you want to add unnecessary drama to the end of a song. Something like the national anthem, right? In the key of C should end in the home of the brave, back on C. But if instead of resolving to the tonic, you give them the Mario Cadence instead, it kind of really drags out to a very epic and majestic fashion the end of that resolution. It's really over the top, it can be very cheesy, and I love that stuff sometimes. To demonstrate, I brought my friend Kerry Devine in here. He's from Rockstar Roadshow. Check out the links in the description.
And the home of the brave.
Similarly, if you wanted to raise the roof at this year's nativity scene, you could do this same kind of drawn out ending for something like Silent Night, right? Instead of resolving, sleep in heavenly peace, instead of resolving right back on that G, you could instead sneak in the Mario Cadence to get you back to G. And it would be completely uncalled for.
Sleep in heavenly
So hopefully you get the picture. This is very easy stuff to apply. All you got to do is find your tonic chord and then just move 2 whole steps back. You can introduce this cadence and get that really uplifting, joyous fireworks kind of sound. But now it's time to dive a little bit deeper, because in case you didn't notice, there's no possible way that all 3 of these chords could fit into a key. If you add up all these notes, there's no major scale or minor scale that can accommodate all these notes. We might want to call this the key of C major, because we started on a C chord and we ended on a C chord. But the notes in an A flat chord do not exist in the C scale, and there's notes in a B flat chord that do not exist in the C scale. However, if we look at the C minor scale, which is considered the parallel minor of C major, we'll see that actually A flat is totally cool in the key of C minor. So is B flat. Those are the 6 and 7 chords in the key of C minor. And you can hear how natural that resolution is. The 6, the 7, to the 1 in the key of C minor. This kind of thing happens all the time in minor keys. 6, 7, 1. So we can interpret this chord progression as being in the key of C major, but we've borrowed the 6 chord from C minor, and we've borrowed the 7 chord from C minor, and then we resolved back to C major. Now, if you've watched my other videos on modal mixture, you might know that over the C major chord, that means I'm free to develop a C major tonality. Then, when these 2 chords come in, I am free to switch to a C minor tonality. So I can switch to playing that scale and then finally coming back to a C major tonality. And this is going to give you that really kind of in-between worlds, very, very dramatic effect that I think is very conducive to progressive rock genres, anything epic and grand. I think switching between minor and major gives you a really, really inspiring sound. So that's one way to parse this chord progression. We're in the key of C major, but we've borrowed heavily from C minor. But there's another way to look at this that I think is just as equally valid. We can consider this chord progression to be in the key of C minor, but instead of resolving to C minor like we're supposed to, we're instead resolving on a Picardy third. And a Picardy third is just a major 1 chord instead of a minor 1 chord. But thinking about composing in the key of C minor gives me a whole different idea. It makes me want to compose minor-based grooves. It makes me want to do different chord progressions. So to demonstrate how you could write with the Mario cadence thinking minor instead, here's what I did. I wrote a very simple chord progression in C minor that's just C minor, B flat major to F minor, which is just my 1 chord in C minor, my 7 chord in C minor, and my 4 chord in C minor. Very simple chord progression. But after 3 times of that, I decided to bring in the Mario cadence. A flat, B flat, C major. Now we're on C major, but instantly we return right back to C minor. So it twists you right away from C major, this bright, happy Picardy third ending where you've got a little bit of sunshine coming through, but then instantly it throws you right back into the minor groove. Now, one of the best examples you can possibly dive into for this kind of stuff is Seal's Kissed by a Rose. I know that song has achieved meme status for various different reasons, but I'm telling you, it is an incredible composition. There's a lot to talk about with this song, but I'll just try to keep it short here. It should be in the key of G, it seems like, but it's actually G a little sharp. It's in between G and G sharp, so I'm not sure exactly what happened in the mastering process if they decided to speed it up. Regardless, if it was in the key of G, and we're just going to pretend it is purely in the key of regular G, then the chord progression is one giant Mario cadence over and over and over again. It goes from an E flat to an F to a G right off the beginning, which we can think of as being from G minor, and then landing onto G major. So you could think of it as a perpetual Picardy third, right? We're in the key of G minor, but we don't tell you we're in the key of G minor. We keep hiding the G minor tonic from you. Or we can think of it as being in the key of G major, but we just keep borrowing from G minor. I like the idea of actually being in minor, though, and just hiding the tonic here from you, because there's one moment in the song where they actually do reveal the G minor tonic, and it's so quick and so short.
But did you know that when it snows, my eyes...
You can hear right there, they play the G major, and then they drop you right in to G minor for the very first time. So never before in that song are you given a G minor chord, even though this could all be thought of as the key of G minor. Then all of a sudden they pop you in there for just a little bit to return you back to the chords of G minor into the Mario cadence. All right. Now for the chorus, we still get that G major tonic to the E flat and the F, but he's singing notes of G pentatonic minor. And if you've ever played rock and blues, you know this is pretty common. In rock and blues, it's pretty common to have a G major tonic, but you're playing the notes of the minor scale or the pentatonic minor scale on top of it. So the last way I want to approach dealing with this chord progression is to completely ignore scales and tonality, just rock out pentatonics, a true guitar player solution here. If I'm in the key of G, and if I'm playing the Mario cadence, let's just rock out G pentatonic minor over the entire thing, and we should get like a classic epic kind of rock blues sound, and we don't really even have to worry about switching between major and minor and worrying about tonalities, just rock out pentatonics. And lastly, I really want to make sure you get a different perspective on this chord progression other than just mine. There's a really great music theorist named Gim on YouTube. I've mentioned him before on this channel, but he did a really great video on this exact same topic, but he teaches it in a way that I just can't teach, and it's a way completely different from my perspective. So I learned from perspectives like that, and they helped me grow, and instead of repeating what he did, I'm just gonna direct you over to his video to watch this exact same kind of chord progression analyzed through a completely different lens. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something. If you did enjoy this video, please thank my Patreon supporters for making it possible. If you'd like to join them, there's links below down in the description, but if you can't do that, you can just leave a comment or a like or subscribe. All that stuff helps me out. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.